great success. And thank you so much, everybody, for coming. And we keep the momentum and we continue with an inspiring speaker today. And actually, I'm talking honestly. There are quite a couple of pages of what I need to read right now, and I will just keep the main bullets, but there's so much. So I will start and I will present Mr. Nick Fewings, who is a director of engagement works. He calls himself a team workologist, which is actually someone who specializes in the study of the dynamics of teamwork, using this knowledge to help teams before become more effective. Uh, Nick has a 20-year career in banking, and he worked his way up from a cashier to a project leader, and he finally changed director. Nick spent 2 decades developing teams across the globe, encouraging, facilitating, and helping them to make a positive difference to the effectiveness of their teamwork. And Nick, I would say that something that I didn't need to read about it. He's actually the author, and he published his first book, Team Lead Succeed, which has become a bestseller on Amazon. And we are actually privileged to have Nick to talk about this today here. And he has been accepted for the prestigious UK Business Book Awards 2023. And this is something that we have a quick chat just before, and we always all the best, Nick. And again, it's quite big to have you here. And I will close my introduction saying that Nick is the creator of the team dynamics model, and that measures overall team effectiveness and effectiveness across 16 areas of teamwork, important in helping to achieve high performance. So just before delivering the floor to Nick, I would say that we keep talking and talking, in our daily business about how can make our teams perform better, right? And we all know that there's no silver bullet about making it happen. So we're looking forward, Nick, to hear about how we can do it. And again, we are so it's a great pleasure to have you here today. So, Nick, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And good evening to everybody. Before I start, I'm just going to do the technology to share my screen with my presentation on it. So bear with me one moment. Right. And we got it in reading view. So hopefully you can all see my screen. And the session, what I'm going to talk about is two things: the who and the how of how to achieve high performance teamwork. And firstly, I'd like to say Kalispera PMI Elada. It's an absolute pleasure to be invited to interact with you on this the webinar this evening. As it was mentioned, I call myself a team workologist. If any of you are on LinkedIn, that would be how to find me, Nick Fewings, team workologist. And I call myself that because, again, I was saying before the session started, at school, I used to study ancient Latin and also ancient Greek. So I have a passion for the etymology of words, where words come from. And obviously there we've got a Greek word within team workology. The logos bit is the study of. So I've studied teamwork for many, many years. And now what I do is I use that knowledge and experience to help other teams to achieve success. I'm a behavioral psychologist, so I love understanding what makes people behave the way in which they behave. I've worked with many, many big name brands across the world. When I'm not working with teams in organizations, I speak at conferences. So to date, I've spoken at over 500 conferences around the globe. As it was mentioned, I created a model that measures 16 areas of teamwork, and I'll share some of those areas with you this evening. And then the last project I've undertaken recently is to take all the 30 years that I've been leading and working with teams to produce a book, which was published last year, called Team Lead Succeed. And I'm really pleased to say it's become an Amazon bestseller. And I'll share some of the information that's within the book this evening. So next week I'm in London because it's been shortlisted for the Business Book Awards 2023. So what are we going to cover tonight? We're going to have a look at KPIs, key performance indicators, and teamwork. Then we're going to look at the importance of knowing who is in your team. Then understand the value of knowing how effective your teamwork is. And as we go throughout the webinar, I will provide you with learning that you can apply immediately with your teams. So a question, who wants their project to succeed, to start off with? And I'm sure that everyone who's on this webinar wants their project to succeed. However, unfortunately, based on research, 70% of projects fail to achieve their desired goals. And there's been lots of research and white papers that have been shared, and they all come up with a similar theme as to why projects fail. Number one is the poor understanding of the skills of the team. Number two is people in the team not understanding the purpose of the team, why the team exists. And number three, little or no understanding of how effective or efficient the teamwork is within our teams. So these themes come up time and time again. And a couple of years ago, I spoke at an international conference in Beijing, and it gave me the opportunity to test this this out with those that were there. And again, it was the same theme. People were saying in the audience, we don't know the skills of our colleagues. And also, we don't have the tools to understand how good or bad our teamwork is. So very common in terms of what they were saying. And I just thought I'd start to get interactive because first of all, we're going to look at teamwork, effectiveness and efficiency. And I thought if we could use the chat function, and if we look at overall teamwork as 100%, I'd just like you to put in the chat, how many teams do you think, what percentage of teams do you think achieve high performance? So please use the chat functionality and just let me know. Use the chat bar and let's see what people think. What percentage of teams do you think achieve high performance?
Nick, just to give you a heads up, everybody's around 10 to 15%.
10 to 15%. Okay, yeah. Great. That's good. Based on the teams that I've worked with and who've used this team dynamics model over the last 8 years, yeah, about 10% of teams are high performing. Frighteningly, in terms of average is 50%, and even more frightening is 40% of teams are dysfunctional. And these statistics are from teams that are both operational and also project teams as well. And there tends to be a particular problem. And the problem is, again, based on what I've been told from the teams that I've worked with, is that teams tend to be dysfunctional because of the historic learning about teamwork and leadership that have been given to leaders in teams. Teams quite often focus too much on task, and there's too much reliance on software in projects. Software is great, but we mustn't rely on it too much. And the thing that is overlooked is the importance of relationships. And this was borne out when I spoke at a European Programme Directors Conference. I said to them, what do you speak about when you come together as a project team on a regular basis? What are the topics that you talk about? And these are the areas that they said they talked about. They talked about the project risk, the scope of the project, the schedule, so the plan, the timeline, progress made against the timeline. They looked at their key performance indicators, costs, safety, margins, profits, and PTP. Not one of them mentioned that they talked about relationships. So I think if we've got to move teams from dysfunctional to average and from average to high performing, there is a solution. And that solution comes in two parts. We need to know who's in our team, and then we need to know how effectively and efficiently we work together. And when I spoke at the PMI Singapore Expo in Singapore, I just threw out the question, how many of you use behavioral profiling to understand who's in your team? 25%. So 1 in 4 teams said that they actually used behavioral profiling. I actually then asked the question, how many of you measure how effective and efficient your teamwork is? And frighteningly, only 1% of those in the audience actually measured their teamwork. So I think the problem lies in the fact that quite often leaders and teams are expected to achieve high levels of performance, yet they're not aware of the tools that can help them to achieve it. So most of you, no doubt, will be aware of this. We use this time and time again in projects, key performance indicators. And no doubt some of these that are shown on screen are ones that you use within your teams. However, key performance indicators are actually a byproduct of how effective your teamwork is. So I'm just intrigued to understand, what key performance indicators do you measure in your team? So again, use the chat box. And if I could have somebody just on the committee to let me know what people are saying in the chat box.
Right. Let's wait for some. We have an answer. We measure budget, time, failure rate.
Yeah.
All right. That's from Bob. Thanks, Bob. And I think that I would say, Nick, that the most of the answers will be around the things you mentioned in the board, like time, risk, schedule, and profit margins. So I think that more or less we're on the same page. And
sure, we're on the same
I see
page.
Spencer, it says top line, bottom line.
Top line, bottom line. Okay,
yeah.
Great. So very much similar to what the European project directors said and what people said at the PMI Singapore Expo. So yes, so we've got these key performance indicators, and you'll probably find, I mean, if you've got your PMI accreditation or other project management certification, these key performance indicators that we use in projects tend to revolve around time, cost, or quality. However, what we tend to miss, as I mentioned, is the teamwork or the people indicators. So who's in your team? And we'll have a look at that in a moment. And also, how effective is your teamwork? So these are really important because, as I said, how well you do in your KPIs is directly impacted by your performance in terms of your teamwork and ensuring that you utilize the skills of those people in your teams. Because ultimately it's people that deliver projects and succeed through their teamwork. So let's have a look about who's in your team. So each and every one of us brings 2 skills to a team. So we all bring the 2 same high-level skills to a team. And again, please use the chat box to have a guess or share your ideas. What do you think are the 2 high-level skills that we all bring to our teams?
All right, let's see. All right, emotional intelligence. That's
Emotional intelligence. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That falls into one.
Communication, emotional intelligence. Actually,
Yeah,
we have
communication.
It's George says technical competence, problem solving,
Competence. Yeah,
create engagement,
yeah. Engagement, that falls into one category.
critical thinking.
Critical thinking, yes, that's in the same category as well. Great.
Yeah. And yeah, technical capabilities, soft skills, knowledge, and focus on results.
Great. Soft skills, fantastic. I don't know about you, but I don't like the terminology soft skills. We use it, but I think in terms of behaviours, they're the hardest skills to actually be competent at. Just a bit of information. Soft skills was actually created by the US Army in the 1960s, where they were analyzing the performance of soldiers in the battlefield. And the US Army said that if it was to do with machinery like guns, anything that was hard, it was a hard skills training. So if they taught you how to fire a gun, that was hard skills. But they also found that their success on the battlefield was also to do with leadership and teamwork. So because that wasn't to do with machinery, they called it soft skills. So just a little bit of trivia in terms of how we get soft skills. So who's in your team? Yes, you talked about soft skills, people skills. The other thing that we bring is our technical skills. So you will have lots of wonderful technical skills that you bring to your project teams. It could be a degree that you've gone to university and you've got a particular degree. You know, maybe a degree in accountancy. It could be a law degree. But you'll have those technical skills that you bring from your education. You'll also bring technical skills that may have been learnt on the job. So you may have some wonderful technical skills in Excel or PowerPoint. And no doubt you've got some fantastic technical skills in project management. So we've got technical skills, and then we've got our people skills, the soft skills, the communication, the engagement skills, the critical thinking that you mentioned just now in the chat box. So each and every one of us brings these, but because of who we are, we bring a unique set of skills to our teams. And there's been some research done in terms of which of these sets of skills generates the most financial success. So again, if you use the chat box, what percentage of financial success do you think is generated from people skills? So both these two add up to 100%. What do you think is the percentage that is generated from people skills? So use the chat box. What percentage?
All right. Personally, Nick, I would say what I see also in the chat box, what George says, and actually most of the people here, most of the people say 80-20, 80 to be the people skills.
Yeah, 80-20, good. Almost there. That this research said 85-15, so very, very close with 80-20. So sometimes people think, wow, that's a really high figure. However, if you sit down and you write down and note the amount of time that you spend on people skills during a day as opposed to your technical skills, you'll probably find that a large proportion of your day is to do with interacting with other people. So it could be interacting with your team, your project team, your stakeholders. It could be with clients. So we spend a lot of time on people skills. So our technical skills, there are a number of places where we can find out the technical skills of our colleagues. So we can use the CV that people have to look at the technical skills they have. We can look at certification that people have. So this one on the screen is certification from the PMI. We could use data from HR or our learning and development teams. So if anybody's been on courses within your organization, they should have a record that we can look at. And of course, we can speak to them. We can have a conversation to find out what technical skills that they have. In terms of people skills, the easiest way we can find out people skills is through behavioral profiling. And as I mentioned, when I was in Singapore, I just asked the question, how many teams use behavioral profiling? And it was about 1 in 4 teams that used it. And there are many profiling tools out on the marketplace. The ones that tend to be really, really useful and powerful tend to use color. And they use color as a shorthand to talk about behaviors. And there's 3 examples on the screen here. And it may be that some of you actually use these colorful profiles yourselves. There's another one that doesn't use color, which a lot of people have heard about, is MBTI. So that doesn't use color, that just uses the letters. There's another one that I haven't shown here, is called DISC. And again, DISC uses the letters and the colors. But all of these profiles tend to go back to the work of Carl Jung, a Swiss psychologist, who said that we are all unique because of behavioral preferences that we have. And you no doubt will use some of these terms, this terminology in everyday work and everyday life. We talk about those people with a preference for introversion, so they get their energy from within themselves. Extroverts get their energy from other people. And then we talk about thinking and feeling, which is linked to how we make decisions. And then sensing and intuition is how we make reality of the world around us. So the majority of profiles will be underpinned by this psychology of Carl Jung. And if you haven't used behavioral profiling, you tend to go online, you'll complete an evaluator, and it will give you a graphic representation of who you are in terms of your behavioral preferences. So it'll show you whether you're introverted or extroverted, whether you're thinking or feeling. And then you'll have some pages in your profiles that will give you an overview of who you are. It will also, the better ones will actually show your communication needs, what works for you and what doesn't, and also what are the behavioral strengths that you bring to your team. So as a team member or a team leader, this information is absolutely wonderful. Now, because I haven't had the opportunity to profile you, when I speak at conferences, I usually start off introducing behaviors by just simply looking at adjectives. And these are the adjectives that describe these 4 different top-level behavioral types. So if you have a look at those and read those words, you will probably find that some of them resonate more with you than others. And there will be one group of adjectives that you think, no, that's not like me. Now, we're a mixture of all these 4, but we have one that will usually stand out to us, that is what we are most like. So do have a read of those, and then once you've read them, just again use the chat box to put in which one is the group that resonates with you the most. Is it the red, the yellow, the green, or the blue?
All right. So we have red, green, red, yellow. So lot of yellow. We have a lot of yellow. Yeah. And yeah, we have an orange. That's a non-statement. All right. And we have yellow. Actually, I think that majority is yellow.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems yellow. Yeah. There's not a lot of green right inside here, Nick, as you can see. Not a lot of green here.
Not a lot of green. Okay.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of green in our community. Yeah.
And that's fascinating in itself, because you know, you said there's quite a bit of red and quite a bit of yellow that have been put in the chat box, and that's fascinating in itself, because people who've got a lot of yellow energy are very sociable people, so they like to learn things, and they like to learn things interactively. So sometimes webinars work for people with a lot of yellow energy, whereas people who've got more green and blue energy are more introverted. Then they tend to want to learn things from books and quiet reflection. The red energy, they want to learn because they want to be successful. So it's interesting, there's red energy here on the webinar. So thank you for sharing that. That's looking at things from a good day. We've also got to be aware that sometimes we're under stress, and these are the words that we associate with having a bad day. So you know, the big ones that people say about that red energy on a bad day can be very aggressive. They'll tell you if you haven't met the standards that they expect. So that can be yeah, quite aggressive behavior with the red under stress. The yellow gets quite excited and frantic. They rush round, and you can see the panic because they're extroverted. So you see a lot of animated energy from that yellow energy under stress. People with a lot of green energy, if they're under stress and they don't believe what you're trying to do, they become stubborn. That is the thing that people in teams say time and time again. People with green energy who are under stress and don't like what's being done dig their heels in, so they become very stubborn. And the blue under pressure is extremely critical. You know, they will ask lots of questions, as it says, nitpicking, so they pick up about small bits of detail that aren't correct. So you may find that on occasions, you know, we all have bad days, and sometimes these are the things that happen to us. But turning back to the positive in terms of, you know, these wonderful strengths, behavioral strengths that we bring to our teams, The people with a lot of red energy, I call the strategist. They are very focused on getting results. They are very decisive when they make decisions, and they're very assertive in terms of getting their point of view across. So that red energy in a project team is wonderful and really important, because it keeps the team on track. They're always trying to push things and move things forward. Lots of yellow energy in the room. I call these the communicators. They're very persuasive, so able to get people on board by talking to them. They're very optimistic, upbeat, and they're very engaging. So again, they bring a lovely different set of skills to the team. Quite often the communicators are the ones that are quite happy to stand up in front of a crowd, a group of people, and talk about the project, talk about the what the project is trying to achieve. Then we have this green energy, which is quieter, and it's they're very supportive of team members. They are fantastic listeners, so they listen to the needs of the team, but also the needs of the clients and the stakeholders. And if they believe in what your project is trying to achieve, they become very loyal members of the team. And then last but not least, the blue, which is introverted thinking. I call these people the experts. They love to plan things out. And they like to be objective. They like to have ticks in the box. They are very, very consistent in terms of their delivery. And they love to analyze things, which is great in projects because those people with a lot of blue energy are fantastic at spotting risks. Very, very good at spotting those risks before anybody else does. So in terms of these different behavioral preferences, as a team member and as a leader, the great thing is when we've got different people, a diversity of behavioral preferences in our team. So when you're working as a team, if you haven't used behavioral profiling, it gives you this wonderful, rich amount of data about who is in your team. So you can actually start to understand where maybe your shortcomings are, where your challenges are, but equally it could give you a great opportunity to understand what your strengths are. So it's always really good to understand your team from a behavioral perspective. And certainly throughout my time leading teams and working with teams, the most beneficial thing that I've found is understanding myself and also understanding others behaviorally. And when I was in project management, I used to use behavioral profiling to look at who was in my team. Did I need new team members with different behavioral skills to join it? What were our strengths, and equally what were our challenges? And I could make best use then of the people within my team. So just a thought for you, a bit of learning, a bit of a suggestion, because I love suggesting things to people, is when you get back into your teams, in your offices, your organizations, if you don't do this already, it may be worthwhile putting together maybe a spreadsheet and putting this sort of matrix together. So writing down people's names, what are their color preferences in terms of behavioral preferences. Also just chatting to them, what are the behavioral skills that they bring to a team? You know, we've got some that these are real skills that people have actually shared. So we've got Bahia there with that lovely blue energy at the start, and they said that they are great at spotting risks from data. Candice, again with green energy, she said she was good at building relationships. So try and capture the behavioral skills that you have available to you in your team. And then equally and importantly, also capture the technical skills. What are these wonderful technical skills that you have available to you? Because quite often, I would say the majority of teams that I've worked with, they don't do this. So there's nowhere that they have this information to hand about their team. So just a thought that if your team doesn't do this already, it's a simple and quick exercise and activity to find out these wonderful behavioral and technical skills that you have in your teams. And we've got to remember, there's certainly a saying in the UK that they say there's no I in team. And I totally disagree with that. There are many I's, as we can see on the screen here, and they're called individuals. And all the individuals within your teams have got valuable and unique technical and behavioral skills. So it's really important that we embrace diversity of behaviors and diversity of technical skills. Okay, so that was a little bit about who's in your team and getting you to think about the information you need to capture if you're going to achieve high performance teamwork. Then if we look at the second element, how many of you measure how effective your teamwork is? And again, this was the question that I asked in Singapore, and only 1% of teams measure the effectiveness of their teamwork. And I just thought I'd share with you something that might give you food for thought. So about 10 years ago now, I sat down and looked at various areas of teamwork. And I created a tool that teams are able to use to measure the effectiveness of their teamwork across 16 areas. And when I looked at these different areas of teamwork that you can see on the screen, it was like an epiphany moment where I suddenly realized that they linked in with the colors of our behavioral styles. So you'll see that there's 4 areas of teamwork that link to what I call strategy. So they are the red, the accountability at the top, the decision making on the right, the purpose at the bottom, and the vision on the left. So we've got those red elements. Then we've got the blue, which is planning, processes, reflection, so reflecting on what we've done as a team and roles and skills over on the left. And then we've got this yellow energy, which is about cooperation. So it's about collaboration. How do we work effectively together? How effective is our communication? The environment is about the working culture. So what's it like to work in our team? And then transformation is about creating ideas to make us even better. So finally, then we've got the blue, the green, which is about people. So how committed are people to working in our team? Do we appreciate diversity of people within our team? What are our team meetings like? Are they effective? Are they efficient? Do they start and end on time? And then finally, how strong is trust between team members? So these are the really important areas of teamwork. And as I said, I created a tool that measured these areas of teamwork. So when I work with teams, they can understand how effective and efficient they are. There's some information about the task related areas of teamwork and also the relationship areas. And teams can understand, going back to what we talked about right at the start, you know, is the team dysfunctional? So that's when they score below 65%. Are they an average team or are they a high performing team? So the beauty of it is it gives you a measure of where your team perceives they are at a moment in time. And these 16 areas, again, based on research that I've done, have different impacts on your teamwork. So you can see here that bottom right, transformation. If transformation isn't happening that well, it doesn't create too much of a problem for a team. So that's why it's in level 4. The big areas that you need to get right if you're going to achieve high performance are in level 1. Your team purpose, you need to get trust strong within team members. You need to have plans in place to get you from the start of your project to the end of your project. And you need people to collaborate, which is sharing our knowledge and skills with each other. And I just thought I'd give you a bit of learning on one that you can go back and apply within your teams immediately. And this is to do with team purpose, which I feel is the most important thing that you need to get right. So it's basically understanding, what does your team exist to do? What does that enable? And what are the benefits? And frighteningly, 4 out of 10 team members, when they've been asked this question, don't understand what their team purpose and team objectives are. And that is frightening. You know, if you're in a team of 10, potentially 4 people really don't understand what your team is about. So there is an activity that I'm going to share with you that you can do to actually increase that understanding and also get people bought in and committed to your team. And that is to create a team purpose statement. Now, team purpose statement simply has 3 elements to it. What you do, what does that enable, and what are the benefits? Very, very simple. So your team, whatever your team name is, exists to do something. That should enable certain other things to happen. And then there should be some benefits that fall out of the end of what your project is doing. So the purpose statement should be motivational. You should be able to tell people within a minute. You should use very little jargon, and it should be understandable. So here's an example. So I was working with a finance team, and eventually they told me this is what they did: to produce monthly accounts that are accurate, possible, and as quickly as possible after month end. Now, I'm sure, like me, you wouldn't be motivated by that. It's certainly not going to get me out of bed each morning to go in and work with that finance team. So I sat down and we went through this activity and got them to come up with something that was more motivational, more inspirational. And this is what they came up with. They said that they were called the finance team, and you can read what they said they were there to do. So a little bit more inspiration, motivation there. This is what it enabled. So again, they were talking about investment decisions, really, really important stuff. And they talk about the results of what they did had tangible benefits to their customers, staff, and organization. So with just a little bit of work, that took the team about 1 hour to agree. They had a really powerful team purpose statement that they all bought into and committed to. So another example, this is mine. This is what I do. I provide learning and development solutions. So again, it's very top level. I don't say that I do it face-to-face or on webinars or speaking at conferences, etc. I just do it at a very top level so people understand. What I do hopefully engages individuals and motivates teams, and the benefit, it helps them transform and achieve even greater success. So very top level. I don't use any jargon, so it's understandable, and I can tell people within about a minute. So my recommendation is next time you have your team meeting, get everybody to write down individually what they think the team purpose is. Share what each person has written down plus yours, and then collaborate to develop a team purpose statement that all of your team have helped to create and buy into. So hopefully you'll be able to do that and get some great results. So in summary from tonight's webinar, if you don't use profiling, I would suggest you consider it to understand the behavioral strengths and challenges of your team members. Ensure that everyone in your team knows the technical skills of other people. So again, think about creating that matrix with people's names, their behavioral style, their behavioral strengths, but also their technical strengths as well. Think about how you can measure your team effectiveness so that you can understand, are you a high performing team? Are you an average team, or are you dysfunctional? Because if you measure something, you can do something with it. It gives you that understanding and enables you to do things to make it even better. And number 4, as a minimum, ensure everybody in your team knows your team purpose, what it exists to do, what that enables, and the benefits. And really importantly, last but not least, don't be afraid to speak up when you feel your teamwork could be better. Don't stay silent. It may be that if you speak up, other people in your team will agree with you. So just some summary and food for thought for you. So I hope you've enjoyed that learning about the who's in your team and how effective your teamwork is. So thank you for joining me. We'll take some questions in a moment. I'll stop sharing my screen in a couple of moments, and I'll take some last questions from anybody that has them. And if you want to connect with me, as I said, there's my email. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me easily on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter. The book is on Instagram. And just to let you know that, as mentioned, the Team Lead Succeed is on Amazon. I went on Amazon just before the webinar, and because of its popularity at the moment, Amazon are discounting it massively. I think they've got a 38, nearly 40% discount on it. I don't know how long that will last, but you know, if you've enjoyed this, there's 21 chapters in the book. There's a chapter on leadership. There's chapters on behaviors, and there's 16 chapters dedicated to each of the areas of teamwork. So please do have a look at that. Great. So thank you ever so much for listening, and I will take any questions that people may have.
Great, Nick, thank you so much. Yeah, it's a really interesting presentation, and you know, I see the people that have already put some questions, and you know, myself, I have some, and you know, I doubt how many of us use this beautiful stepwise approach, you know, of getting to know better our team. We're always focused, you know, on the KPIs and the final results, and we're missing the people skills, the most important thing in this equation. So allow me to start with my question and say that, you know, what's the best mix of colors, you know, in a team? Like, do we need to have more red people or more green people? And it's a two-part question. What's the best color for the project manager?
I mean, it depends. It depends on the project. It depends on the project as to how much of these different behavioral styles that you need. But certainly, if we looked at say a standard project, I would say that the teams that I have seen be successful have a mixture of all these behavioral colors within them. So my color, I lead with yellow energy. So when I used to lead project teams, I would quite happily stand in front of 200 people and tell them what a wonderful project it was and what the benefits would be to them. I always made sure that one of the first people I got on my team was somebody with blue energy, because they would be able to write the plans that supported what the project was doing. I used to have a lot of people with green energy that would be my stakeholder management team, because they would go out and check in with the clients to make sure that what we were doing on the project met their needs. And I'd have people with red energy to make sure that we hit the milestones, that we kept the project on track, so that we hit the deadline in terms of time that was set for us. So I think it very much dependent on the project, but certainly the teams that have a diversity of skills tend to be the ones that are more successful.
All right, thank you so much. So we have a beautiful question, says that are we different color-wise in bad days and good days?
Yes, there's three levels of stress. So normally we work in our good day and we've got some wonderful strengths that we use. Then the adjectives that I showed you on the screen are the bad day adjectives. So that's where we tend to go first of all. So, you know, again, with the yellow energy, I become quite frantic and very, very animated if I'm under stress. However, the bizarre thing about our behaviors is if the stress becomes too much, we flip to our least preferred preference. So with mine, I'm very extroverted, but under a lot of stress, I go to blue, which is my opposite, and I become introverted. I don't talk to people. I become very quiet and very silent. People with a lot of green energy, they explode like volcanoes. They use swear words, they use expletives, they shout and they stamp their feet, which is totally opposite to what they normally do. So yeah, on this third level of stress, we do flip to our least.
All right, thank you so much. And is there any transformation as we age? Like, are we different colors on our 20s, 30s, and then we get different colors 40s, 50s?
Yeah. Carl Jung called the process individuation. So we don't change rapidly. We change quite slowly during our lives. And that change will be based on two things. The job role that we undertake. So if there's a particular job that we have to do and it needs a particular behavioral style, if we continue to use it, it will become embedded within us. So we change sometimes because of the demands of our jobs. We also change based on our life experiences and our work experiences. So if we are a particular behavioral type and we get negative feedback because of that, we're likely to change our style. And again, that will become embedded within us. So when I first started out in my career, I was green, blue, yellow, red. So that was 42 years ago. So I was green, blue, yellow, red. And now, 42 years yet later, I'm yellow, green, blue, red. So I've changed, but not significantly.
Right. So let's go to a practical question. I think that's something that maybe a question from a lot of people. Right. So let's be practical. We are in a actual project, and we don't have the whole palette of colors in front of us just to pick the right ones. And we get assigned with people that they may be all red or they may be all blue. So what we do then?
What you've got to do is if you've got a team where you've got particular you're low on particular behavioral colors, it's when I work with teams, I literally use the 4 colors and I say, okay, have we covered the red? So the red energy is about, have we got the benefits? Do we know the timeline? Have we got the timeline mapped out? So I get the team to think about that red energy. What are the benefits? What are we trying to achieve? What's our goals? What's our targets? What's our deadlines? Then I'll switch the team to yellow. So as we're going through the project, what ideas have we got? Can we do things differently? Do we need to actually collaborate with other people? Then I will say to the team, okay, are we covering the green area, which is about, have we got our stakeholders on board? Have we got our clients on board? Are we selling the project with benefits from a people perspective? And then I'll say, okay, have we covered the blue? Have we got our plans in place? Do we know the risks? Do we know the milestones? So literally, by just having a piece of paper with the 4 colors on them, you can talk people through it and get people thinking differently.
That's interesting. All right. I think we're done with questions, and at this point, I want to really thank you, Nick. And it was really
Pleasure.
Not just a beautiful presentation. It was really good information to know, and something that we take with us, tomorrow in our teams. And I think it's something that we sometimes miss, that at the end of each project, it's the people behind. And if we don't manage the people behind, we don't get the results. So thank you so much. All the best next week in London with your book. And thank everybody for today's event, and thank you for joining. And we're going to have our next event in March, and we expect everybody to be there. Soon they're going to receive the mail with a PDU claim code. And again, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you, Nick.
Thank
Bye.
you. Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.